Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini, host of Peachtree Corners Live here in the city of Peachtree Corners. Where else? And we have a great guest today, Election Day. I'm not sure when this is going to stream, but this is Election Day, Tuesday. I voted. I know my guest voted. Scott Hilton, thanks for being with us. Appreciate you being here.
Rico, thanks for having me. Went out to Peachtree Corners Baptist this afternoon, made sure to vote, and always fun seeing so many different neighbors and folks in the community there. So
Yeah,
big day. Hopefully everyone got out to vote. I know turnout was a little bit low in early voting, so
yeah.
hopefully everyone got out. Yeah.
I hope so too. I was looking at I pulled the ballots to see the sample ballots, see what was going on. I did pull that actually a few weeks ago to look at it, but a lot of races are not contested. There were races that are nonpartisan decided today, not going into November, like the judges, certain judge races, I guess, and the school board races. Right? Um,
Yeah, and if you're like me, you get down to the end of your ballot, and there's judges and a lot of races. So I've got a bunch of people that reach out to me, and I try to do a lot of research and homework and get to know these candidates personally. So I made sure to
Good.
help get folks informed as they went to the polls.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you did that. We've had some podcast interviews with several candidates that approached us. I don't normally go out and solicit. I could be interviewing podcasts all day. So usually I take people that come at me or people that I specifically invite to do this. So I appreciate you joining me here today. I want
Rico, I,
to,
I think my first podcast with you was in your home office there, and I
yes.
got to be honest, I miss having the cat kind of climbing over me during the interviews. So uh,
So if I have three cats, so if one of them shows up as part of the show, so sort of scooted them out. Hopefully they stay up.
I've got three kids, so if one shows up, we'll have the same problem. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So let's dig right into it. Although just before that, we this past weekend was the PPA tour, the Vizzy Atlanta Open, which is the pickleball national tournament that's on tour. You happened to be there. You were there for a day or two, I guess, attending the event for a special reason. You want to tell us your experience? You actually met, I think, the finalist at the of the single women's single.
Oh, it was
Number
awesome.
one. Yeah.
Pickleball has just exploded. I've been playing for the last 6 years. I love it. It's a
Oh, wow.
blast. Our neighborhood of Amberfield's getting some permanent courts here.
Really?
So
Okay.
Carvana, who hosted the tournament or sponsored the tournament, invited me to kind of come out as a local celebrity, and I was able to
Mhm.
participate in the Pickleball for All event where they had pros and then folks from Georgia Special Olympics on Wednesday, and such a fun event for players of all ages and abilities. And then stayed over this weekend and saw the tournament, and just brought so much revenue and attention, not only to pickleball, but to Peachtree Corners. We were on a national stage this weekend. So
Mhm.
really cool to be a part of the event and see it here in our city.
Yeah, same here. I was there Saturday, was watching the semifinals on a media pass. We took pictures and stuff. It's going to be part of a new magazine we're going to be launching in a month or two called Atlanta Pickleball Magazine. Makes it real easy. So it's going to be out there, but it was a great event. They're going to come back in September, so looking forward to that.
That's awesome.
But let's dig into some of the legislation. I know that Governor Kemp signed legislation, lots of legislation, but Scott Hilton's name was a sponsor on like eight of them, I think. So, and a lot of them education related, right? Because you're on the House Education Committee. So
That's correct.
tell us the one of the key pieces of legislation that you're proud of that came out of that was made into law, signed into law.
It's tough. It's like picking your favorite child. It's tough to single out one.
Yeah.
First off, thank you for recognizing that work I did down there.
Oh yeah.
I told constituents when I ran for office that I was going to go down and work incredibly hard for you, and that's what I've done. Even passing one piece of legislation is hard. 2,000 bills, over 2,000 bills are introduced. Only about
Right.
200 get signed by the governor. So you got a 10% chance of even getting a bill passed. And the
Mm.
fact that I had 8 get to the finish line was just awesome. So yes,
A
incredibly
miracle,
honored.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
Um,
one of them was the major part let me point out was raises to teachers and safety grants. I think that was part of the same legislation. But tell us about that. I think that was important to say.
Yeah, so one of the most important things we do down there is pass the budget. And as part of that budget, we once again raised teacher pay by $2,500 in Georgia. Over the last 5 years, we've raised teacher pay almost $10,000. So now in the Southeast, Georgia are some of the highest paid teachers, which is just awesome to help us recruit new folks into teaching and education and help inspire and encourage those that are already in the field. We also, as part of that budget, included resources for teachers so they don't have to pay out of pocket for things that they need to buy for the classroom that should be provided for them anyways. And then, yeah, finally, the $45,000 for every single school in Georgia. And what's important about this is it's not a one-time grant. It's recurring money every single year that allows schools to hire, say you want a police officer to just sit outside the front of your school. You know, I know our own school, Wesleyan, has something like that. And as a parent, it just gives me a greater sense of comfort. So big wins for education.
Yeah. Now, when I saw that at public safety, to be able to do whatever they want with it, either hire a police officer, I guess, or even buy security cameras or security systems, hardware and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know when you go to school now, they have that system where you put your ID in and it kind of scans who's entering the school. You have to push a button. So yeah, a lot of progress has been made.
Yeah, that's great. And you pointed out something. Wesleyan private school, prep school here in Peachtree Corners, one of the largest, has their own security, hired off-duty police officers in cars to, protect the entrances and such. Good thing that we're doing that with public schools. There are other things, other legislation. Well, that was the budget, but legislation that passed that deals with charter schools. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that. There's several legislative pieces, I think, passed on that.
Yeah, so as a dad of three kids, I know every single kid is different in every family, and each one has a different educational need. And so charter schools are a different form of public schools. We actually have one right here in Peachtree Corners off of Spalding Road that does immersion classes in Japanese. And it's just so awesome that that's right here in our backyard. And so, yes, passed a bill to provide additional funding for our charter schools. And included in that bill was something I was really passionate about, was requiring our schools and school systems to produce a single score performance rating. We haven't had performance ratings for our schools really since 2018, 2019, before the pandemic. And so I want to get back to being able to know, how do our schools stack up so that we can encourage those that are doing well and then help lift up the ones that aren't doing well. And so, part of the reason our family moved out to Peachtree Corners was we knew Simpson was a great school. And so want to get back to empowering parents by putting that data at their fingertips so they can easily find out, how are my schools doing? We've been kind of flying blind the last 4 or 5 years on that.
Is that all grade levels, all schools, elementary, middle school, high school, or?
Yeah, so all schools, the bill requires school systems like Gwinnett County to either post the school ratings and rankings on their website or on the individual school's website. So, and it's got to be a single score. Yeah.
So these are not individual, these are not new tests. These are existing scores that are averaged in a formula that gives that single score, is what you're saying.
That's right. Yeah, okay. The data is already out there. The Department of Education, they wanted to use 5 different metrics, and parents are busy and they don't have time to sit and try to evaluate which one over another. And I said, let's aggregate it all into one score, make it easy, so you can understand, how's my kids' schools, how are they doing? But yes, definitely no new tests or anything like that at all.
Okay. And would that score allow, so if someone wants to delve a little further, because I'm not sure what that score is made up of, could be attendance, could be grades, could be, I don't know, other things maybe. So will there be a breakout in case in case a parent wants to look a little further into it?
Great question. Yeah, that actually came up in the committee process. And so what we did is we said, okay, as part of this requirement of a single score, you got to have a hyperlink that someone can click if they really wanted to kind of nerd out and go down deep into, okay, what's making up that score, which is important too, to provide total transparency.
Right. Okay. All right. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I would love to see that. I would love to see that for doctors, actually, medical practices, the same type of score thing, because you don't know, they all could be either A's or they could have been C students. He's just walking into it, guys.
Well, and right now it's the private sector, the niche.com and some of these, websites that, kind of make up their own score, and so there's nothing really official out there. And so I think we need to have an official score once again, so parents have total transparency into how their schools are performing.
Yeah, no, I know there's niche and there's another one. I forget what the greater. It's another high-end school score thing. Yeah, but you don't know how they made up on those. The other piece of legislation was SB 351 that had to deal with social media, cyberbullying, and internet usage. There's a minimum age on there. So tell us a bit about that, because that's interesting. That's a bit controversial, maybe, because you're limiting by default, I think, users. So tell us how that legislation works.
This is a really big one. It's been passed in a handful of states. And what we've found is social media usage is correlated, unfortunately, with negative mental health aspects in younger children. And so what the bill does, over time, it sort of got other bills added to it, but kind of three primary things. Number one, to your point, it says if you're a child under the age of 16 and you want to sign up for a social media account, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatnot, you've got to get permission from, or your parents have to submit, yes, we are fine with this. And so encourages parental involvement in that decision. Kids can still sign up. They just need the parent to sign off on that. The other component to the bill, we updated Georgia's cyberbullying statute, which really didn't exist very much. So that was a big update. 2024, that's a new form of bullying, unfortunately, that we're seeing in our schools. And so we've put guardrails around, what is the punishment and how do we handle situations like that in our schools. And then the third main component of that bill deals with pornographic websites that now users of those sites will have to do an age verification or input their driver's license to verify that they are of age to consume that material.
Really? Yeah. That'll be interesting. So if they're viewing from the state of Georgia, I'm assuming, right?
What's that? I'm sorry, I missed the question.
If they're viewing from the state of Georgia, I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah. That piece has been enacted in other states, and they've got the technology guys know better than I do whether or not. Yeah, but they have a way of telling if you're sitting here in Georgia looking at it.
Excellent. The get back a little bit to cyberbullying and social media, because that's a big thing, right? You got lots of kids on TikTok. TikTok was a big thing with the Capitol, with the quote ban legislation, which is really a buyout of TikTok if they don't do what they're supposed to do. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think that was a big mistake on the government's part, and that'll be challenged in court. I can't imagine that was part of the budget, which is a budget for the military spending, I think. So no wonder it passed, because by itself it probably wouldn't have passed. But so social media is really big. I mean, every kid is using it. As I drive up East Jones Bridge Road or West Jones Bridge, going to towards Simpson or towards Picnickville, I'll see kids on their phones. They're all walking, ready to trip and fall and stuff. And adults. I've driven down West Jones Bridge Parkway, and people are just moving in and out of the lane. Yes, because they're not keeping their eyes on the road, which is really sad. I saw that on East Jones Bridge the other day, the whole way up to CVS, and I was just going to stop next to them and tell them, get off the phone, but they went on Peachtree Parkway. But so how can we? So I mean, I understand the age limit and stuff. So what specific things have to be done for the parent to actually to allow their child to be on it if they want? Because sometimes it can be convoluted. So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So to your point, I mean, every rose has its thorns, right? So social media has been great at getting us connected and advancing technology in a big way, but we've also seen the thorns, as I mentioned, in terms of a lot of negative mental health impacts on some of our kids. So, but again, parents ought to be making that decisions for their own family. With the bill, we've provided a number of ways. We say commercially reasonable efforts to do age verification. So it can be anything from the parent can go online and say, click a button, yes. They could call an 800 number. They could email something in. So a number of channels to make it easy on the parent who are busy enough to verify the age of the kid.
Right. That's what I'm thinking, because all of us are using it. I mean, some of us on TikTok. I know our magazine has several posts. We have a TikTok account, for example. So it's an interesting, where we're going. Do you see legislation coming up dealing with AI at all? Because that's the next big thing, right? AI in the classroom, AI integrity, the use of AI in education. Do you see any of that coming through, being talked about at the Capitol?
Absolutely. I mean, AI has really taken off over the last couple of years. I know I'm a user of it myself in some aspects. There was actually a bill this year that says if you use AI to impersonate a candidate, you can be held liable for something like that. What we're trying to do is some folks use AI and deepfake in a negative aspect to try to impersonate someone and say something that actual person didn't say. So it's really kind of scary and futuristic type stuff, but the future is here. And so we're trying to play catch up of, okay, what laws need to be in place, but not laws, but also what freedoms should we ought to, maintain in this space as well. Because again, AI is going to bring a lot of positive along with some negative with it. So how do we, safely police that?
Right. Education is one area, but obviously with the startups in the state of Georgia that are dealing with AI in business, even we're seeing it across the state. Certainly here in Peachtree Corners, right? Curiosity Lab startups that are here in Peachtree Corners using AI and other technologies. EV, that's the other market, right? The EV market is changing also still. Do you see anything going on there that you want to share with the EV market? I know there was tax credits at one point. Not sure if that's still there, actually.
No, it's not. But what's been neat is along with the EV boom, and our federal partners have offered a lot of incentives to grow the industry. What I love is Georgia is such a business-friendly state that a lot of these large manufacturers have come to Georgia. If anyone's driven down I-16 and I-95 recently, there is a massive new Hyundai plant down there. And so, while we don't see it directly, we kind of do indirectly with some of the jobs we brought to Peachtree Corners, but Georgia, from a business standpoint, is really booming right now. And we've been so successful, I think we kind of take it for granted. Other states would kill for the number of jobs and opportunities we're bringing into the state. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think you were part of you were part of a commission when this is your first term back as state rep. You're running this year, you're going to be on the ballot in November, but you were on a commission, I think, that dealt with business development or impact.
Yeah. So on behalf of the governor's office, for 2 years, I led the Georgians First Commission, which our job was to look at small business and see how we can make Georgia more attractive to small businesses. 75% of the jobs here in the state are actually small business oriented jobs. And so it's a huge part of our state's economy. And how do we grow that by reducing red tape, simplifying things? And we got feedback from all over the state, and the governor did legislation, executive orders. So just need to be a part of that effort. And then now back in the legislature to continue that, to make it easier to start a business, run a business, and eventually sell one.
Do you see any changes being back new? Obviously in DC, they're a little dysfunctional, although depending on the legislation, they can all be bipartisan and pass things. But do you see, is it different than it was because you served once before a few years ago as a first term, really. So this could be considered your second term, really, with some space, a sabbatical in between. But do you see any difference in relationships and the type of stuff you see there now?
Personally, for me, having experienced, winning election and then not being able to return, it causes you to take no session for granted. And so I really poured kind of my heart and soul into this one. And I don't know, it was very enjoyable. I didn't take anything for granted and really felt like I accomplished what I wanted to do. There's still more left on the table. And if voters in November decide we love what he's doing. I'll go back and do the same all over again and get even more done. I would say since I served the last, one of the things that disappoints me is that I think during the Trump years, there was a more of a hyper polarization. And I think that's seeped its way into the legislature. Some of the folks on the side there, it's not as bipartisan as I'd like to be. But the beauty of what we do in a state legislature is we're only down there 3 months, and then we've got to go back to our day job. And so really, you don't make money or get clicks or likes for fighting. You've almost got to get stuff. It forces you to get stuff done.
Although it's funny, I've watched you on TikTok. You have some really good videos, humorous. So. I guess drawing it a little closer to home, there was another piece of legislation you were involved with that had to do with property taxes in Gwinnett County. You want to tell us a little bit about that? I think it was homestead exemption or something along those lines.
That's right. Yeah. In fact, if you voted today, Tuesday, it was on your ballot. We had 2 homestead exemptions. Gwinnett's homestead exemption hasn't been changed in 35 years. So if the ballot measure passes today, if you voted yes on it, it will double your homestead exemption, saving homeowners on average a little over $200. More obviously kind of in our area here where home prices are a little bit higher. And so just exciting. It's probably the number one thing I hear is that sticker shock from folks when they get that property tax bill in the mail and they're like, oh my gosh, my house is worth what? And so it was something we had to address. I was honored to help sponsor that bill. The second part of your ballot question is, do we want our public servants? So this is public safety officers, teachers, to get an even larger homestead exemption. So we're putting a flag down to say, hey, in Gwinnett, we really value what these professions do, and we want more of you. We want to attract more of you to Gwinnett, more public safety, more teachers.
Sure. When I got my tax notice, not the bill itself, and I saw the appraisal, I was like, I don't know whose head they were in, but that appraisal looked like skyrocketed for no reason. I know things got more expensive, but it was just unbelievable. I think I'm going to have to contest it, and everyone should appeal theirs if they feel like they need to. And by the way, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, that when you appeal, that actually freezes your appraisal for 3 years. Now that's good and bad, right? Because 3 years is frozen. If it drops, if the market drops, then you're stuck at that higher appraisal, I think. I don't think it goes lower. But yeah, I saw Eric Christ, City Councilman Eric Christ, put out something on that about how to appeal it and stuff. Yeah, property taxes, homes, affordable housing. There's a lot of stuff out there. Anything that you saw this year that didn't pass? Because things can sometimes take 2 years, right? It's a 2-year cycle for bills to go through sometimes, or most times. So is there anything that you would have liked to have seen pass that didn't pass?
A couple things. Number one, so I had a bill, kind of going back to that AI deepfake somewhat. I had a bill that says if a campaign pays a social media influencer, so someone online making videos, it pays them to say something good about you, it's got to be disclosed in that post that they make. This comment or this advertisement is basically paid for by such and such campaign. Provide that transparency, because we have campaigns that are paying influencers thousands of dollars to say great things about them, and unfortunately unsuspecting users are kind of flipping through and, oh wow, he thinks Scott Hilton's great. It ought to say on there paid for by
it's funny, it's like when I post these videos on Facebook, these live streams and stuff, I'll sometimes want to boost them for 2, 3, 4 days, 5 days. Can't do that with the political. Anything that has a politics, housing, or jobs associated with the topics in the video, you can't do it without being, without the identity of the person being verified, right? So, of course, I've applied and stuff. Taken forever to approve me. This is like Facebook. But you definitely have to go through the ringer with them to be able to get approved, because they want transparency, which is good. That's what you want. But these monoliths, these huge companies will take forever in doing certain things like that. And it's amazing what they will stop, even though it might be a podcast interview like this, talking about issues. It's not a political ad per se, and
Right.
yet they just, it's just amazing. But
Yeah, it's interesting. I've talked to some of the folks at Facebook, and yeah, they've even within their internal algorithms, they've suppressed anything political, and it's
yeah,
helped to some degree. I think are the rancor around politics. I mean, you think about 10 years ago on Facebook, you'd have your great aunt arguing with your college roommate over which and it
right,
wasn't healthy, and so the pendulum has certainly swung the other way.
yeah,
I don't know. I think there's sort of a middle ground that we need to get back to, where we can have more of that discourse online in
yeah,
a healthy way.
yeah. I think that's doable at some point, but people always take advantage. There's always someone that's gonna. There's always a group of people that will take advantage of the system and do something they shouldn't be doing. It that ruins it for the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But no, I mean, in terms of what didn't pass, I mean, there was so much good stuff that we got done. Yeah, some sessions you leave and you're like, man, I wish, but honestly, I can't go back to think, there was just so much good that we did. Folks should be feeling good and feeling proud. We addressed it. Property tax. We're actually there's gonna be a ballot measure in November that allows you to cap the increase of your property tax. So no longer will we have these massive
wow.
jumps. So yeah, we voted to put that on your ballot. So a lot of really good relief that's coming to people who are already dealing with inflation that continues to be persistent.
You know what's interesting? When I took the ballot today and I voted, of course, I had to choose which ballot instead of Georgia. It's a little different than New York from 30 years ago, where you have to be registered for that party to pull that ballot. But here you can pull any ballot. So anyone that's new that hasn't voted, you can pull any ballot you want. It doesn't matter. Democrat, Republican. It depends on the races you're interested in, because some of these races were not contested. Quite a few were not contested in one party over another, and some of them were decided today that some people didn't probably don't even realize were decided today, like the school board races. It's but the resolutions, or the not the resolutions, but those tail end at the end of the ballot where it talked about, you mentioned about the homestead and stuff like that, where you had to vote yes or no, plain English, and actually gave you some. Actually, a voter would understand that. I only remember a few years ago. I don't know if that's just recent, but they would be written in such a way that you had to be careful how you voted. Whether it was yes or no, because you might be voting for something if you said no, and you would think,
Yeah.
well, that doesn't make sense. So, I mean, the language has changed. So I'm sure that's just recent.
Well, whenever a bill is written that adds a resolution onto your ballot, I pay very close attention. Within the bill, it has spelled out what it'll actually look like on your ballot, and so
Oh,
you're
okay.
right. There's been some in the past that have bothered me that says, do you like puppies and children? Vote yes, when the bill is actually trying to increase your taxes or something like that. So,
Correct.
yeah, as far as I'm down there, I want to make sure that we are putting stuff on the ballot that is very clear about what it actually does.
If people want to find out a little bit more about you, Scott, where can they go? Especially your election's coming up in November, so we want to make sure everyone understands, where they can find information about you. So
Yeah,
where would
yeah.
they be able to go to do that?
Well, we talked a lot about social media, so I may as well put my social media handle out there, but it's at Scott Hilton GA. So at Scott Hilton GA, and that's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find me there. But I'll do something probably a little strange. I'll actually put my cell phone number out there, and you can find that on my website, scotthiltonga.com. I always share with people, and nobody ever calls me. So feel free to call me if you want to talk about the issues. Text me. Email me.
Right.
I try to make myself as accessible as possible. That's the beauty of a state house job, is that unlike Congress, where you're up in Washington, I'm usually at Ingalls or at the Forum or the Town Center, going to a Taylor Swift concert, and you can access me just at any time. And so
Yeah.
I love hearing from people. It makes me better at what I do. So please reach out to me. Would love to hear from you.
Cool. Good. Thank you. Everyone, listen, elections are coming. There's not just local state house, but presidential. I mean, it's just so much out there. Make sure you vote, whatever way you want to vote. I mean, I could ask you to vote a certain way, but it's whatever is in your mind, right? I know that you will probably have an opponent, I guess, on the other side of the aisle running as well. So, and if anyone wants yard signs, just like anything else, you got to reach out to Scott. I'm sure he'll deliver it to you. Well, someone will. So if you have any questions,
yeah.
email
Well,
Scott.
I'll just put one more plug in there, Rico. We do have an opponent this fall. And I'll just tell folks that if you're looking for just a common sense conservative who's looking to bring back civility and unity, not only to our nation, but our community, I'm your guy. I would love to have your vote in November.
Excellent. Thanks for asking for it. I appreciate it. Scott, thank you again. Scott Hilton, Georgia State Rep, District 48. Most of the Peachtree Corners, I think, or a decent portion of it. But thanks for hanging there for a second. But thank you, everyone.